Good morning. Thank you for coming along to hear a little bit about our company and what we're doing. As a private company, BMC tends to avoid the limelight and we don't make a lot of presentations, but there's been such a strong interest in the Yukon and elsewhere about what we're doing, we thought it was appropriate that we actually got up and made ourselves available. So, standard forward-looking disclaimer, as a miner, we tend to be quite optimistic, so you forgive me if we actually say what we think we might be doing in the future instead of staying silent. The first question is always, who is BMC? And a lot of people have never heard of us, and that's just how we like it. But BMC was formed out of a mining company in Australia called Jabiru Metals. That was the subject of a friendly takeover about 8 years ago, and the management team was very successful and the shareholders are very happy, but we all ended up going fishing for a little while until we decided to get back together. So I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Neil Martin here at the front row, one of my founding directors. But we are a strategic partnership between a highly experienced management team that has a long demonstrated history of developing mining projects, and Global Natural Resources, which is a natural resources fund based in London. We formed our partnership about 2014 and acquired the Kudzakaya project in January 2015 off Teck Kaminko. There's some beautiful people there. We've got a very strong local flavour. Robin Black, our Vice President of Exploration, is standing down the back there with Chief Jack Caesar of Ross River Dinner Council, the First Nation whose territory we're operating within, and there are various BMC people around the room, so please feel free to catch up with any of us for a chat afterwards if you wish. We often get asked why we came to the Yukon, and I'm blaming Neil. When we set the company up, we let ourselves, we wrote ourselves some guidelines, and I said, well, okay, my only rule is I'm not going anywhere, I'm going to be shot. And Neil said, well, we're only going to go places where I like the geology. So he dragged me over here. We came over to the West Coast for several weeks, and Neil drove me up and down and around and everywhere. And we ended up in the Yukon, and what we were looking for is a place that had a long and demonstrated mining history, where people understood mining, where there was great geology, where there was good infrastructure, a good regulatory regime, where there were welcoming First Nations that wanted to work with us, and importantly, where there were projects to acquire. And we ended up in the Yukon at the Kudzakaya project in Ross River Dinner Council territory, and we got everything that we were looking for. The other thing that we got, which we weren't specifically looking for, but we took as a credit, was that the project we bought, the Kudzakaya project, actually had been permitted to start mining in 1998 by Kaminko, and the mine had never started for lots of reasons, including the fact that they got taken over by Teck and that it was too small for them. So, you know, to buy a project in the world that actually had mining permits in place, albeit we've now decided to re-permit the project as a bigger project, with all the tick marks that we had, we thought that was pretty fantastic. So you can see there on the map where the project's located, the southeast corner of the Yukon. So in 2017, March 2017, we submitted a proposal to the Yukon Environmental Assessment Board to re-permit the project. The original permit was a 1 million tonne per annum project, and we are re-permitting as a 2 million tonne per annum project with an open pit and a small underground. A very, very, very conventional project. An open pit, a concentrator. We're going to produce 3 products: a copper concentrate with gold and silver credits, a lead concentrate with gold and silver credits, and a zinc concentrate with gold and silver credits. There's nothing new, there's nothing highly technical. It is a very, very standard project. The only thing that I think is a little bit different is the original proposal had a wet tailings dam in the valley floor. We decided early on, after discussions with Ross River and internally, that we thought it was more appropriate that we had a dry stack tailings facility. So really that's the only technical difference to the original project. So one of the things that we were looking for when we looked around the world for a project, because we had a strong background in zinc and copper, we started looking for zinc, and then we thought, you know what we really want is a VMS deposit with strong precious metals credits. And I put this graph there because it's just interesting that in the 6 months since we finished our feasibility study, and we've had a drop in copper and a drop in lead prices, what we've also seen is an increase in gold prices, and that's typically what you see in these types of deposits. We've got 45% of our revenue is actually going to come from gold and silver. People still think of us as a zinc project, but only 33% of our revenue comes from zinc. So what we are is a true polymetallic with a natural precious metals hedge. So in 2015, we acquired the project. In 2015, Neil and Robin and their team found a new ore body right beside the existing ore body. So that increased the project size a little bit. In 2017, we completed a pre-feasibility study. 2017, we completed a pre-feasibility study and submitted our mining proposal to YESAB. In 2019, in June, we completed a feasibility study, and that was all on the back of a pre-feasibility study that Caminco had completed 15 or 20 years before, and about 20 years of environmental studies. So a lot of high-level work and a lot of more detailed work has gone into our feasibility study. So we have a very high degree of confidence in that because it replicates a lot of work that's been done by a lot of different people, and they're all very consistent. So what we see is some very strong economics for the company. So pre-production capital of $381 million US. So it's not a cheap project, but it's backed up by an NPV of over $500 million. But importantly, there are multiple deposits and a highly geologically prospective area. So as a starter project, we're very, very happy with this. And the reason we're using NPV 7 is, as I said, it's as much a gold and silver project as it is a base metals project. So some of the metrics that we've got here with the strong IRR, strong NPV, strong operating margin, I mean, those are the sorts of metrics that you look for with a good project. I mean, a lot of companies will go around and say, we want to have a 30% operating margin. We've got a 30% operating margin. We want to have a strong IRR. We've got that. We want to have strong cash flow and rapid payback of the capital. We've got that. So all in all, very, very strong economics for the company. But the other thing that the feasibility work has done is it's shown very clearly that we're going to have strong economic benefits for the Yukon, Canada, and the local community. So when we look at a debate that is often the public eye, when the people against everything will tell you that mining is a no net win industry, it's rubbish. Over the approximate 9 operating years of the mine, will produce $245 million in taxes for Canada, $200 million for the Yukon, about the same in royalties. We're in the process of discussions with Ross River about how we change the existing socio-economic agreement that we've got. At the moment, we're expecting that there's going to be about $100 million worth of benefits to go into that community or the nation is the Cascan Nation. So, you know, really strong benefits for the community, really strong benefits for the Yukon. A lot of jobs to be created. Our expectation is that the low unemployment rate that Premier Silver talked about here yesterday is an accurate number, but what it doesn't reflect is the low employment rate for local First Nations people. And one of the things that we've been working hard on over the last 5 years is to build capacity in the local community. And so our plan is to take that capacity building, which we will continue to do. We'll take that through and translate that into opportunities at the mine site. So that doesn't come, that sort of plan does not happen in 30 seconds. And we started this plan 5 years ago. And you can see from there, I mean, these are the sorts of legacy things that a mining company would likes to leave behind. So, you know, improved infrastructure, jobs, capacity, education, training, the ability that when one mine closes, that people have the skills to go to another mine, or they have the skills to translate that experience into industry jobs in a different industry even. So we've worked very hard with Ross River Denner Council on our education and training, for example, but we have identified as we've went some opportunities. So, for example, in our first year at the project, we sat down with Ross River Denner Council and we said, they said, how are you going to get our people, our inexperienced people to get jobs on your mine site? So we went to town and we arranged a job fair and we employed a lot of people. And at the end of the summer, we all sat down and I said, how do you think that we've gone at the end of the first year? And the answer was generally, pretty good. Employed a lot of local people, a lot of people got experience. But then we started analysing it a bit further and we realised that had a great summer, but only one local person actually started at the start of the summer, and our retention rate for local people was about 5%. Because only one person actually started at the start of the summer and saw the whole summer out. And so he said, that's a fail. So what are we going to do about it? So we started a mentoring program, and that mentoring program was essentially to get people job ready, to help them to write applications, to help them feel confident about applying for a job. In some cases, that was the first job they'd ever had. To help them to come onto the mine site, to help them to be comfortable on the mine site, to make sure that if they had issues, they actually had someone that was a local elder to go and talk to and say, look, I'm not comfortable here, I'm not happy, or something's going on that I don't understand. And that program was run by a local elder and highly successful. So in 2018, 3 years later, we had 100% retention rate of First Nations people from the local community on that site. So it took a few years, but that's the sort of 3 years ahead looking that you've got to do if you want to achieve the objective of having largely a local workforce working on your mine site. So we've put a lot of effort into that. We're very, very proud of it. So the other part of it is not just the people, but the businesses. So we've put a lot of effort into employing the local businesses, and the numbers there on the screen, I won't bother telling you what they are, but one of the things we have is that every single contract that we issue has a local employment and local business content clause in it. And every single contract we issue has an obligation on the contractor to support us and support our obligations under our CEPA or our CEPA today and whatever it might be in the future. So we expect it's a shared responsibility, and we expect our contractors to come on board with that, and they know that on day one. So this is a list of some of our community initiatives. We've actually, when I did the numbers this morning, we've actually put 100 CASCA members through some form of support for education. So that support could be help to finish high school right through to university degrees. And about 18 months ago, this program started delivering real results in that we started employing our first CASCA graduates so as CASCA scientists working on our project. So we're, once again, really, really proud that when we start this mine up, we are going to have CASCA as senior management in areas on that mine as in technical roles, not just jobs on the shovel. So our expected timelines, we've done, we've owned this project for 5 years, and in that 5 years we've found a new ore body. We've consolidated some of the district in terms of mineral claims. We've carried out a pre-feasibility study. We've carried out a feasibility study. We've done environmental studies, and we've prepared submissions for mining applications. And we have received from YESAD in November a draft screening report, which is open for public comment. So it's been a very, very big 5 years, and I expect the next 5 years is going to be just as big. So once we close out the YESAD process, we've then got the Quartz mining licence process and then the water licence process, and in parallel with that is a whole lot of other work. So big 5 years, another big 5 years coming up. So in summary, and I feel like I've raced through this, but I suppose I haven't, but in summary, BMC is a well-funded company, which was a strategic relationship between a very experienced management team that has a lot of experience with building mines, a very well-resourced resource fund that has a lot of experience in backing companies such as ours. We have a project that stands up well on a world scale against any project. It's high grade, it's VMS, it's got a great natural hedge, produces a great product, provides a lot of economic benefits for the company, for the shareholders, but will also provide a lot of economic benefits for the Yukon, for the First Nations and everyone involved. And our focus going forward is to work very closely with our partners as the Yukon government, people in the Yukon with the First Nation, work very close and make sure that we deliver a project that is something a little bit special that works for all parties. So on that note, thank you very, very much for turning up to listen to me. And as I said, there's a few people around the room. We haven't got a booth here, but we will have a booth at Roundup. But anyway, there's a few people in the room. If you'd like to catch up and ask some questions one-on-one, you're more than welcome to, or you can ask me some questions now. Thank you very much.